In today's video, how to prevent a refund offset if you are experiencing an economic hardship. Welcome back, everyone. So very happy to have you back for another update. Let's go ahead and get started. While the IRS authority to offset a federal tax liability is discretionary, the IRS must offset refunds when you, the taxpayer, owe any other non-tax federal debt or state liability, including past due child support obligations. However, the IRS can forego reducing your tax refund by any outstanding federal tax liability once the taxpayer establishes that they are experiencing an economic hardship, which is why the IRS refers to the refund as an offset, bypass refund OBR, but this must be done before the IRS offsets your tax refund. For example, an economic hardship might exist if an individual needs to pay rent to avoid eviction, or if the individual needs to pay a utility bill to avoid disconnection of service. The individual must provide documentation to prove their economic hardship. Timing is critical in OBR cases. Taxpayers who need their refund quickly should consider filing electronically. However, taxpayers who need time to gather documentation proving your economic hardship, you may want to file your tax return on paper, resulting in a longer processing time than electronic filing. Now, an OBR case generally is possible only before the IRS applies the tax refund to an outstanding federal tax liability, and it is limited to the amount required to relieve your economic hardship. If you are experiencing an economic hardship and are aware of a past due federal tax obligation, there is something you can do before the IRS applies your tax refund, but you must act quickly. Once the tax refund is applied to an outstanding federal tax debt, relief via an OBR is not available. If you have a federal tax debt and you are experiencing an economic hardship, you should contact the IRS to request the OBR. IRS employees should work on OBR requests immediately upon receipt. But if the IRS does not act timely, you can also contact the Taxpayer Advocate Service for assistance with your OBR cases. The Taxpayer Advocate Service may be able to assist you if you have an outstanding federal tax liability and is experiencing an economic hardship and need all or part of your tax refund to relieve that hardship. To get help from the Taxpayer Advocate Service, you will need to complete Form 911, Request for Taxpayer Advocate Service Assistance, and you can find that form on irs.gov. Simply type it in the search. Next, you will need to file the form with a copy of your completed tax return with your local taxpayer center office. Since timing is critical, call the local tax office to verify your Form 911 was received and assigned to a case advocate. Taxpayers must file their original tax return with the IRS. A return is not considered filed until the IRS receives it. Submitting a tax return to the Taxpayer Advocate Service does not establish the tax return filing date. To avoid missing your tax filing deadline, taxpayers must file their original tax return with the IRS, not with the Taxpayer Advocate Service. A taxpayer can request, and the Taxpayer Advocate Service can initiate the OBR case prior to or at the same time you are filing your tax return. For example, you can submit the Form 911 requesting the OBR with a copy of your tax return and then file your original tax return with the IRS at the same time. However, it is important to note that the Taxpayer Advocate Service cannot advocate for an OBR if the IRS has already offsetted your tax refund. Now, once the amount of the hardship is established, the IRS will only issue a refund up to the amount necessary to alleviate your hardship. For example, if you, the taxpayer, has a refund of $4,000 and the outstanding federal tax liability exceed that amount, under normal procedures, the IRS will apply the total refund towards the outstanding federal tax liability, leaving no overpayment available to be refunded to you. But the OBR procedures are an exception to that refund offset, and it provides immediate relief to the taxpayers experiencing the financial hardship. If the taxpayer establishes a hardship of $1,000, the IRS would issue a $1,000 refund and then apply the balance of the $3,000 to your outstanding tax liability. The OBR procedure is not a well-known option, and there is a very narrow window of time in which you can request an OBR and establish your hardship amount. Taxpayers who need their refund quickly should consider filing electronically and submitting the OBR request right away. Taxpayers who need additional time to gather documentation proving your economic hardship, again, you may want to file your return via paper in order to give you more time to collect those documents. The Taxpayer Advocate Service can also assist taxpayers with pursuing collection alternatives such as installment agreements, offer in compromise, or currently not collectible status in order to help you resolve your underlying federal tax liability. To find more information, you can go to the Taxpayer Advocate Service Twitter page and you will find this posting. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and of course, don't forget to hit that notification bell to come back for more 2024 tax refund updates and breaking news. Bye-bye.